All right, everyone, what's up? Jammer here from Jammer's Wrestling Magazine Collection. Today's video, a little longer today. I'm actually going to go through the year 1987 and take a look at what happened in that year. So, we're going to start off with Pro Wrestling Illustrated, 1987. We got Great Scott, Rowdy Roddy Piper turns good. So the Hot Rod is now a good guy. He's gonna be going after Adrian Adonis soon, right? WrestleMania. Do I have a poster? Oh yeah, the Fabulous Freebirds is the photo in that one. So we got Piper, who's now a good guy, ready to take on all the villains in the WWF. For January '87 for the wrestler, Bobby Heenan's bitter crusade to destroy Hulk Hogan. I believe that looks like it's from the AWA, that photo, though. That's not a WWF photo. But it doesn't matter because both men are in the WWF now and you can't really tell, right? But you kind of can if you're a hardcore fan. You can tell by the ropes. You can tell Hogan's wearing black knee pads. Hogan has a lot more hair in his head. Bobby Heenan's got sideburns. This is clearly 1982, 82, 83 AWA for sure. Inside Wrestling, January '87. We got the new Roddy Piper, why the fans love him, but why they should hate him. And there he is on the flower shop with Adrian Adonis and a pink-hatted cowboy, Bob Orton and Jimmy Hart. Terry Taylor, I will win the PWI UWF tournament. And we got Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA in the cover there. So, as you can see now, going in, Roddy Piper already on 2 magazines. So he's a big deal here now that he's turned babyface, right? Of course, he wouldn't be around for long because he'd be leaving at WrestleMania 3, which we'll be talking about eventually coming up here as well. January '87 for Sports Review Wrestling, the Russian invasion continues. Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev capture the U.S. Tag Team titles. And we have a special section rating the top 50 stars of WWF. The fabulous ones were the real U.S. champions. And a sports review interview with Bill Watts, right? So I know I didn't look through those other magazines. I mean, really, there's not much to look through these. There's the top 50 stars, of course. Dynamite Kid came in at number 6. Hogan 1, Savage 2, Orndorff 3, Piper 4, Steamboat 5, Dynamite Kid 6, Jake Roberts 7. Davey Boy Smith 8, Magnificent Morocco 9, and Butch Reed 10. I wonder if Bret Hart even made this. Oh, Bret Hart makes it at number 23. I feel like he should be even higher, even back here, right? They used to talk about the excellence of execution all the time, said Gorilla Monsoon. So I think Bret should have been a little higher there. Next up, we have February of '87. For the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, here's that thing Terry Taylor was talking about. It's the PWI UWF Tournament Challenge. Who is the best wrestler in the UWF? So we have Buddy Jack Roberts, Michael P.S. Hayes, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, One Man Gang, Terry Taylor, Steve Dr. Death Williams, and Ted DiBiase on the cover to fight for this cup, kind of like a Stanley Cup for the NHL, right? And the poster here is of Randy Macho Man Savage and Miss Elizabeth. So, Magnum TA there. But I'm trying to see if where's the, right here. Here's the story on the cup, the challenge tournament. Here's also another photo they were going to use, the other cover photo. It just has Sting, One Man Gang, Chris Adams, and Terry Gordy. Like, I don't know why Sting couldn't be on the cover in this one then. Maybe that seems weird, but for the wrestler of February '87, it's Tragedy Strikes Wrestling. Magnum TA needs your prayers now more than ever. I showed this magazine in the Magnum TA video. What a sad time that was. Look at that car, right? How did Magnum survive that? I have no idea. By the grace of God, he survived. And still alive to this day. Still alive. Amazing. Inside Wrestling. February 1987, the WWF's Hate Triangle. Hogan, Piper, Orndorff. So, this is the time frame. Mr. Wonderful was a heel. If Hulk Hogan would have just picked up the damn phone, answer the phone, Hogan, Orndorff wouldn't have had to drove you in the ring and help King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd beat you up. But now, Piper and Orndorff never got along after WrestleMania 1, so when one becomes a villain, the other one automatically has to become the good guy. For Sports Review Wrestling, February 87, Hawk's leg broken in 2 places. Can the Road Warriors ever be the same again? And that, I think that happened in Japan, and I believe he had to do the Starrcade scaffold match with a broken leg. So, Barry Windham and Lex Luger plot Ric Flair's demise. And we got Randy Savage will pay for what he did to Rick Steamboat, says Bruno Sammartino. For March, for PWI, we got the 1986 year in wrestling. And I guess we can take a look here at who won all the awards. For Rookie of the Year went to the Total Package Lex Luger. Tom McGee made it in the runners-up. I mean, if you know of the Bret Hart-Tom McGee match, you've probably heard about it. Tom McGee was supposed to be this big superstar in the WWF back then and did not live up to it. Inspirational Wrestler of the Year was gentleman Chris Adams. The Most Improved Wrestler of the Year was Terry Bam Bam Gordy. The Manager of the Year is Captain Lou Albano. The Most Popular Wrestler of the Year was Rowdy Roddy Piper. Most Hated was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. The Match of the Year was Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair, with runners-up like Bulldogs versus Valentine and Beefcake, Road Warriors versus Ronnie Garvin and Magnum TA, and Hulk Hogan versus Paul Orndorff. Tag Team of the Year was the Rock and Roll Express, with the Road Warriors, British Bulldogs, and Midnight Rockers coming in and runners-up. Wrestler of the Year was Ric Flair, with Hogan and Savage and Nikita as the runners-up as well. Yeah, this was what a weird, like, the pages feel funny here. They're like print photo, but they're colored. It's really weird. Up next, March 87 for the wrestler. Ivan and Khrushchev's Kremlin orders crush Nikita Koloff's Russian Revolution. And we got Randy Savage versus Rick Steamboat. Has the Macho Man slain the dragon? The Russians getting a lot of magazine cover here. Has 2, right? 2 in the last 3 months. So doing something right in the NWA territory. Inside Wrestling, March 87. Happy anniversary, Hulk Hogan. The WWF champion celebrates 3 years at the top. So we got the Hulkster here. He's now in his 3rd year as WWF champion. I guess going into his 4th year, right? Yeah, if you celebrate 3, you're going into your 4th. But yeah, he's doing well. He's going to be taking on his biggest foe in a little bit. He doesn't even know it yet. All right, we got March 87 for Sports Review Wrestling. Who gave Kamala the gruesome order, bring me the head of Hulk Hogan? Look at that. That's a sweet cover photo. He's got the Hulkster's head, bloodied Hogan at that. Very good. Very cool. And, of course, this talks about Starrcade 86 as well for your Starrcade footage. For spring of 87 for Wrestling Superstars, we get Rick Morton versus Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express Superstar Dream Match. Of course, this match would take place in 1991 when Ricky Morton joined the York Foundation and became Richard Morton. They had a match at the Great American Bash 91, which wasn't the best match, was it? It wasn't really good. Crusher Yurkov's world-class goal, total domination. Of course, Crusher Yurkov is the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow. I don't think I have a colored photo in this one, no. All right. And spring of 87 as well for Wrestling 87. This is the famous magazine cover, Nikita Koloff, I Cry for Magnum TA. It sold a lot of issues. I believe Bill Apter said it sold the most issues at that time. because it was such a huge deal. Nikita being the most hated villain for like 3 years or so in the Mid Atlantic NWA area, feuding with Magnum TA for the U.S. title, and now being upset that Magnum almost passed away right in that car accident. He could have been bad, but Nikita's showing that he is human and that he does care, and that's what set up the whole Nikita versus Uncle Ivan and Crusher Khrushchev feud. Up next for PWI, April 87, we got Nikita Koloff and Dusty Rhodes Superpower Summit. That is a very cool cover. Look at that. Nikita with the United States heavyweight title, Big Dust with the NWA World Television title. Really, really nice cover photo there. And the poster is the total package, Lex Luger right there, who was dominating Florida Championship Wrestling during this time frame. For April 87 of The Wrestler, I had this magazine as a kid. Here it is, Hulk's Giant Task, Hercules, Kamala, and Andre. So right there, they're already kind of hinting, is Andre the Giant going to wrestle Hulk Hogan soon? And no one knew. Honestly, no one knew at the time, right? Because Andre at the time, if you remember in storyline, was suspended for missing dates, and then all of a sudden the Giant Machine was there wrestling, and then the Machines left, and all of a sudden Demolition Axe showed up, and Blackjack Mulligan showed up, and Andre the Giant returned. How interesting and ironic that timing was, right? I had this magazine as a kid too. April 87 for Inside Wrestling, Many Happy Returns, Rick Steamboat, the Dragon is breathing fire again, Barry Windham stampeding back to the national spotlight. Barry Windham, of course, got brought back to the NWA after Magnum TA's accident, and Barry Windham kind of filled in for Magnum. Barry Windham and Ronnie Garvin became the United States Tag Team Champions. I'm sure that was going to be Magnum and Ronnie's deal before going after the world title for Magnum, and Ronnie Garvin ended up getting that too, right? So Magnum TA getting injured actually. It works in weird ways. It helped Ronnie Garvin become world champion, and it brought Barry Windham back into the NWA Mid-Atlantic area by Jim Crockett, right? Next up for Sports Review Wrestling, we got April 87, the 1986, the year in pitchers. So the pitchers are probably not colored, though. There's Give Tony Atlas a title shot now. They don't come any tougher than Dick Murdoch. That's true, probably. I'll agree with that. I'm sure Rick Steamboat was the wrestler of the month. Where's the year in photos? Are they even in here, or did they get ripped out, I wonder? Who knows? Oh, well. Doesn't really matter. I don't look at these anyways. They'd sit on a shelf. May of 87 now. Here it is, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Hulk versus Andre, the WWF braces for an all-out war. Now they're talking about it. Man, look at those photos. That's Andre the Giant from like 1983, maybe 82. And there's the Hulkster there. Getting ready. And there's the cover. It's Steve Dr. Death Williams, who won the UWF tournament. There he is holding the cup. It was Steve Dr. Death Williams who was victorious in that PWI UWF tournament they did. May 87 for The Wrestler. Hulk versus Andre, how the experts see this match. Here we go. There's a match. That's probably from 1980 when Hogan was a bad guy in the WWF and Andre was a good guy. And here we go, right? They're talking about it now. So it's only a matter of time before this match happens, and before it will be talked about on the magazines as well. We got May 87, Inside Wrestling. I love this cover. That's a great cover shot. Barry Windham's warning to Lex Luger, keep away from the Four Horsemen. Lex Luger now going to NWA Mid-Atlantic area. He was an associate to the Four Horsemen at first until Ole Anderson got kicked out, and then Lex replaced him. And, of course, Barry Windham pretty much said, don't do it. Don't get near them. They were friends in Florida, these two. And, unfortunately, Lex didn't listen, and we had a feud on our hands between Barry and Lex, which, of course, took a really big turn in 1988 when both of those guys changed sides. in the same match. It was pretty crazy, right? Like Barry, I know I'm trailing off here. Barry cost Lex the tag titles and then joined the Horsemen in the same match. Like, crazy. For May of 87 for Sports Review Wrestling, we got Russian to Nowhere. Why the new Nikita Koloff cannot defeat Ric Flair. So yeah, Koloff and Flair have a program going on right now. And here's another thing: how Danny Davis stole the title from the British Bulldogs. That, of course, was because Dynamite Kid was injured at the time, and they had to get the belts off the Bulldogs. June 87. PWI. A PWI exclusive, Magnum TA's message to his fans. Thank you for your prayers. There's a fully bearded Magnum TA. He couldn't have shaved for a while because he was, laid up in bed at the hospital, but it's good to see him. He looked good there, looking good spirits. That was always a good sign for fans to see. And of course, the poster here is Hulk Hogan, WWF World Champion, right there. And of course, if you look at that title, that's pretty much the same design and color as the NWA World Television title that Dusty Rhodes was holding in that magazine a few issues ago. So wrestling federations definitely used belts that looked the same, just different logos on it, because I guess you kind of had to. They only had a few belt makers out there, so you had to do with what you can do. June 87 for the wrestler. I had this one as a kid too. The Hart Foundation versus the Can-Am, special analysis of this WWF super feud. Of course, that ended up changing because Tom Zank left the company and Tito Santana replaced him, and then it became the Hart Foundation versus Strikeforce feud. And you got Wrestling Like It Ought to Be. The Flair Wyndham War is a classic. So Barry Windham now going after Ric Flair as well. Like I said, he was pretty much taking over Magnum TA's role in the company at the time. June 87 for Inside Wrestling. Nikita Koloff's mission: saddle the Horseman and trample Lex Luger. So there's a bloody Darn Anderson on the cover there getting choked out by a bloody Nikita Koloff. It's really rare to see Nikita bleed, but when he did, he made good on it, right? He made sure to bleed. And Roddy Piper's retirement, how long will it last? It lasted 2 years when Piper left. He left WrestleMania 3 and came back at WrestleMania 5 in 1989. June 87 for Sports Review Wrestling. Here we go. This is the first time you'll see these two interact since Andre turned on the Hulkster. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, the war that's bigger than both of them. This happened in the Battle Royal on Saturday night's main event going into WrestleMania 3. Both men were in the Battle Royal, and that was the first showdown between Hogan and Andre. Gave us a little peek at what was to come. And that's a great magazine shot of it right there. And we got Big Scott Hall up here on the cover as well. So that's Razor Ramon's first, I think, pretty much his first cover photo of any kind for a wrestling magazine that I'm aware of. I could be wrong, but so far that's the first one I've seen when looking at these old magazines. Next up, we got Summer 87 for Wrestling Superstars. It's the dream match, the greatest battle royal ever. It would have, all these wrestlers in it: Andre, Hogan, Flair, Abdullah, Gordy, Piper, Luger, Lawler, Brody, Bockwinkel, Von Erich, Williams, De Beers, Hall, Koloff, Savage, Snuka, Rhodes, Hawk, and Animal. Colonel De Beers, by the way, I was reading in some of these old magazines, the stuff he said about different races, and I'm going to be as politically correct as I can by saying this. I don't need this video getting flagged for any reason, but the things he said about, different races that aren't his own, it was horrific. It was ridiculous, the stuff that was printed back in these magazines that apparently Colonel De Beers was saying about Jimmy Snuka, about the likes of him, about likes of like Tony Atlas, and you can probably get my drift where I'm going with this. It was horrible, and I can't believe the 80s were a wild time, man, for stuff like that to be so easily printed and said in magazines. But that was then, and this is now, of course, the era where you really got to be careful what you say, because even the woke people will definitely have issues with you, right? I'm sure they have issues with me covering these magazines, but suffice to say, Summer 87, we got, there he is, a total package Lex Luger on the cover there. Of course, now, like I said, he's a 4 horseman, getting ready to take the United States heavyweight title off Nikita Koloff. in the summer for the Great American Bash. Now, July 87 for PWI, Rick Steamboat versus Randy Savage. Even WrestleMania 3 cannot end this feud. Man, they had some really great matches. If you end up getting or renting, or I guess you can't rent anymore because they don't have them out, but if you can get a copy of Best of the WWF Volume 9, there's a match between Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage on it. I believe it's the opening match, but it's from Maple Leaf Gardens. It's like a house show, and it was awesome. I actually enjoyed that match more than the WrestleMania 3 match. So, is the poster in here? No, probably not. I think the poster got ripped out of this one. But yeah, definitely... this is their match. They always had good matches, but I feel like their WrestleMania 3 match is like maybe overhyped compared to their matches I saw on house shows that they've done. So, because they had more time too to work with on house shows, they could just do whatever. So it was pretty good. July 87 for the wrestler Missy Hyatt. Will she kiss and tell in the WWF? Yes, Missy Hyatt was brought into the WWF. She was supposed to be an announcer, like a Roddy Piper, with the Piper's Pit and all that. And she was supposed to do one of those deals. It didn't last. I think she was there maybe a month, and that was it. And she went back to, I guess she would have went back to the UWF, because UWF was still around until the end of 87 when Jim Crockett finally took over it. What else we got next now? July. For Inside Wrestling, exclusive ringside reports, WrestleMania 3 makes history. So there we go. WrestleMania 3, it made history. This is I believe, that looks like it's, what do you call it? Like one of those, I can't think of what it's called right now, where they do those things where the wrestlers talk before the match. My mind went blank here, folks. You know what I'm talking about, though, where they do it. They do it for all those big fight ordeals, and WrestleMania 3 apparently was a big fight, even in kayfabe terms. What's next now? We have July of Sports Review Wrestling. Steamboat takes Savage's Intercontinental title, the match that made WrestleMania 3 great. So they're the title WrestleMania 3 here as well. And we got Dennis Condrey fired, can Stan Lane save the Midnight Express. And there's Big Bubba Rogers, that's the big boss man. The first time I think I saw him on a cover too. But nice shot of Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan there. Personally, I grew up knowing a Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan. The first time I saw the Midnight Express was like in 1988, so that's the only version I ever knew. And to this day, I still think it's the best version. I mean, Bobby and Dennis were good from what I've seen, watching old videos, but I'm a Bobby and Stan guy. And I think that's the only time I can think of a tag team where you replace one of the originals that it may have been better than the originals, right? I mean, Smash and Crush Demolition was not better than Axe and Smash. Marty Jannetty and Leif Cassidy was not better than Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. And even Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart weren't better than Brett and Jim as the Hart Foundation. But Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan, I thought, were better than Bobby and Dennis. Up next now, we have August. And August for PWI gives us Giant Killer. Hogan topples Andre at WrestleMania 3. And of course, the photo they're using of Hogan there is actually from a Maple Leaf Gardens show in Toronto, because that was the only place where they would have the ramp you could walk down to, and the ramp would be even with the ring. And that only was at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and that was an old NWA deal, right? Because Toronto actually used to be an NWA territory, and then the WWF got a hold of it, and Jack Tunney, I guess it was Frank Tunney, Jack's father, I believe, sold the rights to Vince then, and the NWA couldn't do it anymore there. That's why some of the old WWF shows from Maple Leaf Gardens too, they're actually wrestling in a NWA style ring. It's not a WWF style ring. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, that's a picture from Maple Leaf Gardens, and there's the WrestleMania 3 body slam heard around the world, where the Hulkster body slammed Andre the Giant. For August 1987 for the wrestler, we got the Can-Am connection. They've won the fans' hearts. Can they win the Hearts belts? And no, they were probably going to win them. I would think if Strikeforce beat the Hart Foundation, I'm pretty sure Vince probably had it set for the Can-Am connection to beat them. But Tom Zank flaked. He took I think he took money from Vince or something. Vince lent him money or something, and then Tom flaked and he left and never went back. And he ended up wrestling in the AWA and in WCW then. And he was never welcomed back in the WWF. I believe he was like boycotted, like blackballed. Like Vince did not want him back at all in that company. For August, Inside Wrestling, we have the Crockett Cup. There it is. Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff were the winners that year. They defeated Tully Blanchard and Lex Luger in the finals. And Magnum TA came down that time for the first time and embraced Dusty and Nikita. And it was a huge moment in the fans and for the wrestlers to see that. And here we see, after climbing the highest mountain, where does Hulk Hogan go next? There again, WrestleMania 3 match with Hogan and Andre. And Stan Lane says, Jim Cornette saved my career. So I guess so, right? I'm not too sure what the fabulous ones, Steve Keirn and Stan Lane, were doing in 1987. I don't know. I remember they were big in Memphis, but I'm not too sure if they were even in Memphis at that time frame, or if they're in Florida. I don't know. Next up is August for Sports Review Wrestling. Hulk Hogan and Ken Patera. Will today's friendship become WrestleMania 4? Now, I believe this here, Hogan and Ken Patera, in that pose, what they're doing there, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm willing to stake on it that this was from the Saturday Night's Main Event TV taping that happened after WrestleMania 3. It was a dark match, so it didn't air on Saturday Night's Main Event. It probably should have. It probably would have did amazing for numbers. It was Hulk Hogan and Ken Patera versus Hercules and Andre the Giant. So it was the first time Hogan and Andre wrestled since WrestleMania 3, and there was a tag match, and Hogan and Patera were victorious. I believe Hogan pinned Hercules, of course, to win that match. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where that picture is from, that match. That would be a great match for the WWE Network to put on their Hidden Gems section, right? Hogan and Patera versus Andre and Hercules from that event. Also, let me just say this right now. So, a side note, I live in Canada, and we don't have Peacock. We actually still have the WWE Network. And to get the WWE Network in Canada, you have to have it through your cable company. So we have the actual live channel as a cable channel, but we can also watch it on your computer too. But you log in and you click on your cable or satellite distributor, and then you can watch the online stuff. Well, apparently now they've updated that, so I guess it looks like how Peacocks look. And I can't find anything I was watching. I was watching WWF Superstars from 1993, and I have to look it up now, and it doesn't show me what the last thing I watched. Like, it used to be like a red line underneath saying, "Hey, you watched this." It's like, cool. Now it's not like that. The website's a fucking joke now. I hate it. I hate the website now. And it just pisses me off. Like, if something's not broke, don't fix it, right? And yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's my rant about the WWE Network. It was good. I liked it. And now I'm just like, ugh. And it kept signing me out every 5 minutes, too. So there's clearly a glitch in it now that they've updated it. So thanks, WWE. Thanks once again. All right. Sorry for that rant. I know. I felt the need to rant about that, though, just because I'm freaking pissed off at them for changing it. PWI, September 87. We got Supercards 87. So it's talking about WrestleMania 3 here, talking about the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup, talking about UWF Super Blast, and talking about the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. I talked about this one in the Supercards video. As you know, I show pictures. There's colored photos and such in there. If you want to check it out, go back, find it, look at it. But yeah, this is a pretty cool magazine to have to see those events, especially if you missed out on watching them at the time. For the Wrestler, September 87. Independence Day. Nikita Koloff breaks his last link with Uncle Ivan. So there's the Koloffs again on the cover there doing their battle. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan defends the American way. Hacksaw now in the WWF going after Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. And of course, remember that story? Hacksaw got busted with the Iron Sheik riding together, got pulled over by the cops, and it made big news. That I don't think Vince McMahon was angry that Hacksaw and Sheik got busted for speeding or whatever it was. Vince was more pissed off that they got busted together when they're supposed to be feuding each other, right? Wrestling fans would wonder, is wrestling real or not? Well, you kind of gave it away, Hacksaw and Sheiky baby, but Now it doesn't matter, eh? We see freaking blogs online by these wrestlers who are showing who the guy they just wrestled that night, and now they're hanging out playing video games together. Like, way to keep the suspense there, people. All right. Man, I'm turning into like one of those bitter old guys now who just can't stand the new stuff half the time and is living in the past with this old stuff that's just very cool and nostalgic, but I digress. Next up, we got September 87 for Inside Wrestling. Hulk Hogan defeats Harley Race, how fate took the greatness out of this violent feud. And they had some good matches. There was a videotape, was it WWS Most Unusual or Even More Unusual Matches, where Hogan wrestled Harley Race twice on it. Once from Boston Garden, another one from Madison Square Garden. And Harley would do this spot where he'd go to headbutt the Hulkster, but Hogan would move and he'd land on the belt, the championship belt, and like come up a bloody mess. So it was pretty cool. Harley Race was, man, he was tough, right? He was a great wrestler. September 87 for Sports Review Wrestling. It's time for a real American Hulk Hogan for president. That picture from the Hulkster is probably from 1985. Wasn't wearing his Hulkamania shirt, had Python power. Actually, that might be before that. That might be 83. That could be the AWA, because look at those ropes. So I don't know. Or maybe it's 84. I don't know. But definitely not a newer looking Hogan for the photo. And Lex Luger versus Nikita Koloff, who will survive the Great American Bash. Of course, that would have been Luger. Luger walked out U.S. champ in that one. For fall of 87 for Wrestling Superstars, we got the men other wrestlers fear most. Randy Savage, the Road Warriors, Abdullah the Butcher, Jake the Snake Roberts, Bruiser Brody, and Nature Boy Ric Flair. So a superstar dream match here, Road Warriors versus Can-Am Connection. I can honestly say I never had that for a dream match ever, nor would I ever want to see that match. But, oh well. And up next now, we have October 87 for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Dump the Horseman Flair, a true champion stands on his own. And we have the poster here, if there is one. I don't know. Is there a poster in this one? Nope, I'm missing the poster in that one. So that one's missing a poster. Some of these miss the poster, some don't. It's give or take with these. Beggars can't be choosers with how old these are, and some of them, so I'll eventually upgrade the ones I need if they have the posters, but if not, hey, at least I have the set, right? Let's see. October 87 for the wrestler. The Honky Tonk Man wins the Intercontinental title as Randy Savage, the fans' only hope. Macho Man now turning good. He's the fans taking a liking to him now, and that set up the whole great Saturday Night's Main Event moment where the Hart Foundation are holding Mach. Honky goes to hit him with the guitar. Miss Elizabeth gets in the way. Honky pushes her down. She runs to the back and gets the Hulkster, and Macho takes a vicious guitar shot from the Honky Tonk Man in that match. So that's the Saturday's Main Event of September 1987, people, if you want to go back and watch that. Inside Wrestling for October, we have the Rock and Roll Express win their 4th NWA title. How long can they avoid the Road Warriors? And Bam Bam Bigelow invades the WWF. This is the man who will dethrone Hulk Hogan. I guess they thought Bam Bam was going to come in as a villain, as a heel, because he was working as a heel, from Memphis and all over, right? I don't think he ever was a good guy yet. So, but Vince turned him good, had Oliver Humperdinck manage him, and he was Hogan's friend, not his foe. So, it's pretty cool. October of 87 for Sports Review Wrestling, we have Barry Windham takes the gold, full coverage of the Western States title tournament. So this belt was supposed to be a UWF belt. For some reason, it was called the NWA Western States, but it was going to be a UWF belt. It was supposed to be Bill Watts' version of the United States title or the Intercontinental title. So that's why. It was supposed to be a big deal if the UWF had stayed around. The UWF didn't stay around. Crockett bought it out, and then this belt kind of became a joke. Wyndham held it forever, lost it to Larry Zbyszko at the Bunkhouse Stampede pay-per-view in January of 88, and that was the end of it. Larry held it until he left the company and went to AWA to work for his father-in-law. What's up next now? November. Yes, I don't have the November. November's the next, I believe. Yeah. All right, here we go. November for PWI. When the going gets tough, will Nikita Koloff turn bad again? Well, he did, but it wasn't until 1991. But he did leave the company in like early 1989 and went to the AWA. The poster in this one is of George the Animal Steel. Looks a lot like my friend Zeke Zanzibar. So there you go, Zeke. Little shout out to you. But yeah, no, I'm just kidding. George Steele's probably better looking than Zeke. All right. November 87 for the wrestler. I love this cover photo. The night that shook wrestling. Steve Williams dethrones Bubba Rogers for the UWF belt, and Lex Luger wins the United States title from Nikita Koloff. Great shot of Lex with that US title and Dr. Death with the UWF belt. UWF belt, of course, the same kind of style of belt that the Ring of Honor title was, that guys like Samoa Joe and Austin Aries and CM Punk held back in 2003, 4, 5 and such. I always loved that US title belt on Lex. I always thought it looked good around Luger, and he just was fitted for that title belt. It just looked amazing around the waist of the total package. Next up is, I don't have November for Sports Review Wrestling, by the way, folks, but I do have it for Inside Wrestling, but it's got Mr. T on the cover here. This is ridiculous. Should Mr. T be allowed to referee? And then it talks about the War Games match. I think the War Games match should probably be the bigger photo here instead of Mr. T, but Mr. T probably still sells. The WrestleMania 1 vibe from a few years earlier, but really, I feel by late 87, the Mr. T glory days were probably gone. Was the A-Teams even on TV in 87? I don't even remember. So now we go into December. And for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, it's the special anniversary celebration, the 100th issue, an incredible look back at the PWI years, showing some of the older magazines on the cover. I believe I talked about this before in another video, but they have like colored photos in here and such. Like you get a lot of good photos in here. So definitely a magazine worth owning and to have in your collection for sure. For December 87 of The Wrestler. Rude, Bigelow, Gang DiBiase, Hulk Hogan. Will he be drowned by the new wave of challengers? And no, it was actually Andre the Giant, and with the help of Ted DiBiase and a evil referee in Earl Hebner, who screwed the Hulkster out of the title. And it says Ric Flair must wrestle UWF champion Steve Williams now. I guess they wanted to unify those titles. You know what? I don't think they ever did. I remember at Starrcade 87, Steve Dr. Death Williams defeated the Western Heritage States champion Barry Windham in a match to retain the UWF title. But at that event, Nikita Koloff and Terry Taylor unified the TV titles, right? Nikita was NWA TV champ. Terry Taylor was UWF TV champ. Nikita won both titles. And they kind of made it one. I don't know what they did with the UWF or the tag titles, come to think of it. I don't know what happened to them either. Huh. If anyone out there knows, if you actually followed the UWF back then and watched it, please let me know. What happened to the tag titles and the heavyweight title? Did they just disappear one day and were never talked about again? Because I don't know. Inside Wrestling, December 87, we got Rhodes challenges Luger. Will Dusty's U.S. title hope split the superpowers? There's a bloody Dusty Rhodes there at the total package. Of course, Dusty did win the U.S. title from Lex Luger at Starrcade 87. And warning to Randy Savage, the fans will make you or break you. And, they broke Macho, didn't he? When he attacked the Hulkster in February 89's main event. That was a great show, though, that one, too, right? Sports Review Wrestling for December of 87. We got Road Warrior Hawk on the cover, and look at those teeth. He's got some cavities. I think every tooth there has been filled. So Hawk must have a sweet tooth. You got Kamala, King Kong Bundy, and Ivan Koloff there. And Lex Luger says Nikita Koloff is no longer a challenge to me. So, and end of a legend. Did Hulk Hogan ruin Andre the Giant for good? No. That was Vince McMahon who did that. Wrestling Superstar Dream Match, Lex Luger versus Randy Savage. It did happen eventually. It happened in WCW in 1995 and again in 1997 and 98 probably, and who knows when. But yes, that match happened quite a few times in WCW. I don't think they wrestled each other in the WWF when Luger was there as the narcissist, though. I'm not too sure, but I don't ever remember seeing it on TV. So, yeah, here we go for that one. And last but not least, one of my favorites, Wrestling 87 for winter. It's the Four Horsemen on the cover. I've talked about this before. You got Tully Blanchard, the World Television Champ, Lex Luger, United States Heavyweight Champ, Ric Flair, the World Heavyweight Champ, Arn Anderson, and James J. Dillon there, giving the Four Horsemen high hand sign there. Freaking amazing magazine cover. I love it. I always have. I'm glad it's in my collection now. And yeah, that's it. That was 1987 for professional wrestling. We saw Andre the Giant turn heel and join forces with Bobby the Brain Heenan. We saw over 93,000 fans pack the Pontiac Silverdome to see Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant wrestle, to see Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage wrestle. We saw Magnum TA make a return and walk again and come down to the ring to be with Nikita Koloff and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. We saw the AWA not get mentioned much here. It was a bad year for the AWA. You could really see the writing on the wall here for that. And the UWF especially, because they got bought out by Jim Crockett. Bill Watts sold the company to Jim, and he owned their TV and owned all their wrestlers. And of course, a lot of wrestlers then chose to go to the WWF. Guys like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the One Man Gang, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. They all chose to jump ship to work for Vince in New York, when guys like Sting and Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Taylor and them, and they stayed and worked for Jim Crockett for Mid-Atlantic NWA. So yeah, 1987 saw the first Survivor Series. It saw Starrcade with their first pay-per-view. Before that was always closed circuit, but Starrcade 87 was the first pay-per-view. It aired the same night as Survivor Series did on pay-per-view, so cable companies and satellite companies had to choose one or the other. Vince said if you choose the NWA Starrcade, you're not going to get WrestleMania 4. But I don't know how that all worked out. It was ridiculous. I mean, Vince McMahon is such a crybaby. Really, he is for everything he says and does about wrestling. He sulks when the things don't go his way. If another company comes around to give him competition, he cries like a baby, even though he says he craves competition. But whatever. 87 saw Roddy Piper leave the business. He retired from the WWF, retired from wrestling. 1987 saw the rise of guys like Barry Windham and Lex Luger in the NWA. It saw the new competitors in the WWF2, like Demolition, come in, and it was just a really cool time. Was 1987. Bam Bam Bigelow came in there. Magnificent Morocco became the Rock Don Morocco. So it was an interesting time. Rick Rude left the NWA and his tag title to go to the WWF. I mean, things were happening at the blink of an eye in 1987. It was a fun year, and I hope everyone out there enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed 1987. If you remember this year, and I hope this was a great memory trip for you to walk down this memory lane and see these magazine covers, and maybe some things came back to you that you forgot or that you do remember. So, all right, leave a comment, I'm glad for the subscriptions. Like I said, 110 subscribers now. It's pretty cool. Thank you. But yeah, keep checking out my videos if you can. I hope you enjoyed this. And until I do another one, I'll talk to you guys later.